Hi, this is John Stowell, and welcome to my TrueFire course, Modern Chord Melody. I'm a jazz player, but we're not calling this modern jazz chord melody because it's really not about jazz. The harmonies here have a much broader application than that. This is really about having access to interesting sounds that you wouldn't normally encounter, being able to improvise or use my chord melodies as a way to find improvisations of your own. Essentially, we're talking here about finding your own voice. So some of the things we're going to cover that I think you'll find interesting and maybe unusual are the use of open strings inside of voicing. Here's one I use in the tune. One of the tunes, I should say. Here's another one. We'll talk about these as we get into the course, obviously. In the course of playing these arrangements, you're going to be moving back and forth between single notes and chords. And that's a skill that also translates into a larger arena of being able to improvise mixing chords and single notes. That's a skill that you'll find very useful. We're going to be talking about some unusual stretches. And if I play something like this, that's something that occurs in the chorus. Don't panic, because you will be able to play that with a little time and practice. Holding the neck up at a slightly higher angle might facilitate that as well. My hands are pretty small, so if I can play these things, I guarantee you that you can too. We're also going to be dealing with some close intervals, notes that are close together in a chord. A sound like this, for instance. So I've got a G flat and a G functioning together. So these things happen in all these different pieces of music that you're going to encounter. These tunes are pretty accessible to play. I think you're going to find that most of them are pretty slow. We can play them in a rubato tempo or very slowly. These essentially work either with a solo arrangement, as we're going to play them in the course, or with a band. I've performed them both ways, and the pieces work pretty well in both settings. So essentially, finding your own voice is what this course is about, being able to use my melodies, my ideas for improvisation, as a way into the creative process for you. So here's how the course works. What we're going to be doing initially is playing the melodies as written. Here's an example. Now the next thing we're going to do is play each melody, but tuning the guitar a major third lower. I found that that's a very interesting tonality to deal with, and I stumbled on this about 5 years ago playing solo guitar. The lower pitch is very interesting and gives us a totally different feel on essentially the same melody. Here's an example of that. Now the next thing we're going to do is play the exact same melody, but now with embellishments. And I think you're going to find that as you play any particular piece over and over again, things will naturally change and evolve. So you're going to hear the same melody, but now some rhythmic fills, some slightly different interpretations of the original harmony. Here's an example of that. And finally, the last thing we're going to do with each one of these 5 pieces is have me perform the piece as though it were a performance. So you're going to hear the melody with embellishments and a solo. And I'm going to break down the improvisation afterwards so that you can see where the improvisation comes from. Here's an example of that. So that's pretty much how our course is going to work. But bear in mind, in addition to the melodies, the embellished melodies, the performances, we're going to be talking about basic techniques to help build your skills. We're going to be talking about theory, applications of the improvisation here on the pieces. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's going to be fun. Let's get to work.